I'm in my car, just leaving. There's all the protest stuff. We were protesting this morning, our usual, protesting for immigrant rights, for trans rights, queer rights, out by Legacy Church. And so today I wore this wonderful shirt in support of the Freedom Flotilla. I don't know if you see it yet. I'll put the picture of the front and the back of it, and so I got it off of the Freedom Flotilla website. I saw a TikTok about the shirts that are being sold, and I'd ordered a gray one, and I was very delighted this week that the individual, or one of the individuals who's participating and helping the folks, the Freedom Flotilla, they're out of Washington, called me and said, hey, we don't have gray, we have white, is that going to be okay? I was like, hey, send me whatever color you got, whatever size, I'll find somebody. If it doesn't fit me, I'll find someone else to wear it. I absolutely support it. I'm going to keep buying more and more shirts to support that cause and the merch. Trying to support in any way that I can. It feels very helpless just watching this, this devastation, this horror, and what's even just more incredulous and just absolutely, just insane that there are so many people who I would think are either part of the Democratic Party, which they try to say that they're woke and that they're down with the people, and they're for immigrants and queer rights, for abortion, women's health. They say kind of the right things, or that they're for people. For whatever reason, I do not understand why any human being with any sort of a soul or conscience still working in any ways trying to justify or rationalize the intentional starvation of innocent human beings. Israel is the aggressor, funded by the United States, the UK, and the world is rising up against this horror, this evil, this genocide, and I do not understand why there are people that I know who have joined in, for Black Lives Matter, for a lot of other different things, but for whatever reason, they're still supporting, taking of AIPAC money. Cory Booker, this dude's still getting millions. Heinrich, US Senator from New Mexico, dude's still getting AIPAC money. Ben Ray Lujan, he's moved a little bit, but dude's still getting money. Gabe Vasquez, forget that dude. He just voted to support ICE just last week, so forget him. Stansbury has at least made a change, a very strong shift. I'm very excited about that. Not very public about it. She did a video where she was boo-hoo-hooing, but she's actually coming out for the Epstein victims, and then has also made some changes in her associations with AIPAC, so that's good. It looks like her and Fernandez, also New Mexico representative as Stansbury is, she has also made some changes. So it's not like these congressional folks are, can't be persuaded. I just don't understand why the New Mexico Democratic Party just hasn't come out and had some, courage to. Why are they waiting for the national to do whatever? We are a state of genocided people. The history of colonization in New Mexico is still hundreds of years later having the influences of all those tragedies. So yeah, I have colonizers and enslavers in my ancestry. You don't see me now trying to, forgive that or celebrate that with some kind of parade down the middle of a street glorifying conquistadors. I don't understand. It's kind of similar to, the Confederate flag. Why are these Hispanics in New Mexico, who are ancestors from Spaniards, clueless to the fact that their worth is the same as the brown and red folks who they colonized and who they treated horrifically, and they're not any more special? And so going down the road with their little horses pretending that the Spaniard era was, some improvement to this area, it was not. And so similarly, those folks are the ones who are in charge, the colonizer descendants in the state, and they are just as racist, a lot of them who are in power, as their ancestors. And so that's who the Democratic leadership is in the state of New Mexico. So when people say, well, your state is Hispanic, yeah, there's a difference. Those people who allege Hispanic heritage, they don't want to be considered Latin America because they think brown people are beneath them. They don't like Mexicans. They don't like people from Guatemala. They don't support people from Ecuador or Panama, or those of us who have heritage from Spaniards, colonized. Portuguese is in my family, not necessarily Spaniards, but I've got Portuguese enslavers in my heritage. I can speak some Portuguese. I would love to know it better, but I'm not out here celebrating the era of colonial imperialism that the Portuguese had in the Caribbean and in Latin America and in South America. I own it. I love sort of a lot of things about Portugal. Would love to learn a lot more. I just don't understand why folks want to claim Hispanic heritage, but they don't want to speak Spanish, because we got a lot of those folks. They don't even speak Spanish, but they want to claim Hispanic heritage. And then they treat the natives and the brown folks from Latin America who are feeling the generational oppression that the colonizing Spaniards brought to Latin America, then was continued by the even more evil United States prejudice and racist government. I just don't get it. Anyways, so that is my question now. Is New Mexico Democratic leadership? We know that it's evident that you have views that do not include equity for those folks in Gallup McKinley, right? The Yazzie Martinez case is a direct result of the racist ideology of those who are descendants from the colonizers. You all have been in power in New Mexico, and you want to say, oh, the GOP this and the GOP that, but in New Mexico, you all have been the ones who have caused the most harm in this state. So please explain how you think you're going to continue in power in this next election cycle, this November, and the one after that, because you want to have a governor, but you still want to have the same ideology of the colonizers that are oppressive. So CYFD, the educational system, so Santa Fe is a big, huge example of that. I teach in a Southside school. We do not have the same resources. We don't even have, the entire time that I have worked in that district, my school as a Title I school, has never been fully staffed. Our special ed department is very toxic and retaliatory and very petty and very incompetent in Santa Fe. It's intentional because they want to put the monies onto the schools on the gentrified side of Santa Fe, and so the South Side schools don't get, right? Espanola, Farmington, Gallup, McKinley, right? All of these places are all historically underfunded, underserved. So Yazzie Martinez makes sense in New Mexico because the Hispanics have been in charge. It's not just the GOP. So I'm telling folks, if you want change in this state, you need to find some independent candidates. You need to find some grassroots folks who maybe align with the Democrats, but who are not part of that machinery. So these folks are corrupt and they need out. Okay, so if they've been in office 3-4 terms, time for them to go. They're probably more than likely bought, being blackmailed. They got PAC money, right? There's a reason why they don't want full-time legislation. That's the other thing. Anybody who right now at this point in time is saying they don't want a full-time legislature in New Mexico, then that should be code for, yeah, they're bought. They have sold their votes to probably gas and oil and whatever big donations they are dependent on these days. So it's time for change in New Mexico, and so please do not misunderstand. It says be kind. Be kind does not mean not telling the truth. So we've got information. We see who's gotten what donations. That's going to get out to the whole wide world. If you're still taking AIPAC money, if you're still supporting genocide, if you are for this fracking and the dirty deeds that our governor is kind of involved in with secret emails and phone calls and this kind of stuff going on, it's all corrupt. It is not a Democrats are righteous, Republicans are not, and they're just the only evil. In New Mexico, it's both parties, because both the Democrats have been in charge in New Mexico way more often than the Republicans. And let's not forget that Zorro Ranch, Epstein Ranch, Gary King was a Democrat. He sold that land to Epstein for $1. And the entire time, 1993 to 2019, when they raised it to the ground, the Democrats were mostly in charge all of that time. The Democrats got Sunport to be an international airport. The Democrats got it to where flights could go back and forth between Albuquerque and Santa Fe with a little stopover at Zorro Ranch. That was the Democrats who did that, okay? The Democrats have been in charge as attorney generals of this state. Not one indictment ever, 1993 to 2019, all of the thousands of children, the victims of Epstein that went through Zorro, right? So Albuquerque was just a stopping point between California, Dallas, New York City, right? All these rich people coming out of LA, Right, P. Diddy, Jay-Z, yeah, I'm saying all the black folks, R. Kelly, I don't know if he was in Albuquerque, but I know P. Diddy, and Beyonce and that whole group, Richardson, Clinton, Trump was out there.